We backski. Let's talk NBA. In the pursuit of reaching the mountaintop once again, the Golden State Warriors leave no stone unturned. Today they worked out former scoring legend Dion Waiters. Some know the GOAT as Tony Snell, 50-50-100. Harry Giles, a former #1 player in high school, a big man out of Duke who could have been something special if it weren't for those goddamn knees. Kent Bazemore, a familiar friend who's won a championship and ridden a bench very well for the Golden State Warriors. JTA, who's done the same, but is the true embodiment of what the Bay Area is. He is Oakland. He is San Francisco. He is Juan Toscano Anderson. And I think he fits perfectly on this roster. They need more chemistry, especially with Jordan Poole out the door, and they want to have adults in the room, players that they're familiar with. They don't necessarily need any more rotation players. JTA is a perfect fit. Of course, Trigger Trey out of Michigan was there. What a peak he had. He was a fantastic player in Michigan. He's had moments in the NBA. But ultimately, the Warriors already have 3 point guards in Stephen Curry, Chris Paul, and Corey Joseph. I don't see Trey Burke getting signed. This is a typical, very, very typical free agent offseason workout for players that have been in that league and are trying to get a shot again. I honestly do think the Warriors will sign one of these players. You get that chemistry, you get that familiarity, you get adults in the room as they keep clamoring about. And you could be bringing a championship back to the Bay. Now let's go on to another Western Conference team, the Los Angeles Clippers. They are obviously in talks with James Harden about trying to trade for him with the Philadelphia 76ers. So this is a very interesting discussion because obviously, the Clippers have been known to not want to give up that 2030 first-round pick. They have been known to not want to give up Terrence Mann, who they view as like the same way the Lakers used to view Talen Horton-Tucker, although Terrence Mann is a very good player, and I believe, according to PG's podcast, he's very much in their future plans. But I think we're looking at a Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, and you have to give away that first-round pick for James Harden, because otherwise it's just heinous. Otherwise, Philly, you might as well just keep James Harden, because at that point, you're just wasting your team away. Marcus Morris at this point is not really a player that's going to contribute much for you, although he would get a lot of minutes on the Philadelphia 76ers right now, especially if PJ Tucker is going back to the Clippers in that trade, as we've heard many a time. I expect Daniel House to be gone too, because all of these signings were for Daryl Morey and James Harden, and now that bridge is burned. And also, it seems that James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Ivica Zubac is a crazy starting 5, right? But let's get into the flaws of this. There's one basketball, right? And ultimately, James Harden, the reason he hasn't gelled on a lot of these teams is because he likes to dribble the ball a lot. And there are a lot of other players that do. But we're in a league now where ball movement matters, but we're also in a league where beating your guy and winning pick and roll matchups and just winning matchups overall and then exposing the other team's weaknesses are very important. The Clippers, if they were to get James Harden, would match up pretty well with the champion Denver Nuggets. You're looking at James Harden versus Jamal Murray. You're probably going to put Terrence Mann on him. And then Russell Westbrook will be in the mix, but I think you're going to finish games with Mann over Westbrook. And then you're talking about KCP's in the game. He'll probably be neutralizing James Harden as we've seen him do before. But now you have something set up for Aaron Gordon. Now you have something set up for MPJ by having 2 of the best wing defenders in the league if they're healthy in PG and Kawhi. And the one wrinkle that is so interesting about the Los Angeles Clippers is Ivica Zubac versus Nikola Jokic. Jokic will still give him 30, 10, and 10. But if there's any big body in the NBA that I trust to at least make life difficult on him, steal a couple of rebounds that other players can't get, it's Ivica Zubac. He's a big boy. He's athletic for his size. And you have Plumlee. You have other people on the Los Angeles Clippers who are very well-versed in Denver's system, in Bones Highland as well. You have players that are very motivated to do better. The Clippers have been the laughingstock, even through injuries, because of the way they operate, because of how high they view themselves. But I think they're coming to fruition if James Harden is on that team next season, because my goodness, that's firepower. I still believe one ball can ultimately dog you. But as we saw with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, giving them all those ball handling responsibilities is not the best idea. Westbrook, I think it's a great idea for 20 to 24 minutes, lightning in a bottle. but James Harden can sustain that for 33 to 35 minutes in a playoff series. He proved he could drop 40 against the Boston Celtics twice, but his inconsistency is way more valuable on the Los Angeles Clippers because Paul George can fill in those moments. Kawhi Leonard is going to close every single game, and I think you're going to expect him to close more games than not with the Clippers winning. It's just a win-win situation for James Harden. He gets to go home if that happens. So you hope for him, the guy. You don't love the idea of what's going on, though, because I loved that fit. Joel Embiid, James Harden pick and rolls were a beauty to watch. I really enjoyed watching Philly when they would win games, but I hated watching them when they would lose because you're taking tough shots. You're not in the flow. You're a high turnover team. And James Harden's biggest flaw has always been turnovers. It's always been dribbling too much, which is why I've never viewed him as a championship 1A or 1B. Now we're talking about him being a 1C, maybe even 2A. And now we're talking about something completely different than what you're seeing in Philly. But I still thought that was the best fit for him. I don't know if that Philly really wants Powell or Morris. To be frank, like Marcus Morris makes $17 million this season. Heinous. And then Norman Powell's on 2 more years, 34 mil, 36-ish. I think he's a good player. He's not going to move the needle for you, but one thing that will move the needle if you're the Philadelphia 76ers is giving Tyrese Maxey on-ball minutes. Tyrese Maxey on-ball minutes is what I think we all would love to see. He's an explosive player. He's a fast player. He's so exciting to watch. If there's anyone I could play like in my life, I would love to play like Tyrese Maxey. We're just zooming all across. We're having the most fun playing basketball. Maybe not so many ISOs, but his three-point shot is wet. He's got a mean crossover. I think we're going to see point guard Tyrese Maxey take that next step next season. It's about filling in those holes. Is DeAnthony Melton a good enough starting player to make you be a contender? Is Norman Powell, does he fit that criteria? Marcus Morris clearly doesn't, but Tobias Harris might. How's your bench? Furkan Korkmaz has been wanting to leave for so long. You get Paul Reed. You sign Mo Bamba. You have Pat Bev. Trez just tore his ACL. You lost McDaniels. You need wing depth, but you do have Jaden Springer. And as someone underrated that I think might make the full roster is Terquavian Smith out of NC State, who's just a bona fide bucket when it's time. And I was shocked that he only signed a 2-way deal with Philly. They also have Ricky Council out of Arkansas. They have Tubelis. I think Philly did an okay job this offseason, but if you do trade James Harden for these two guys, you need more firepower. You need better defense. You need to rid of Daniel House. You need to rid of PJ Tucker. You need youth with this team with a couple vets in order to get everything going. And you need, most importantly, and I stress how important this is, to keep Joel Embiid happy. A trade request is always something teams should be thoughtful of, cognizant of. But as we're seeing with the trade request of Damian Lillard, you don't necessarily have to fulfill that right away. But if you're Philly, trading Joel Embiid and even thinking about that is not positive for your franchise in the slightest. Now let's talk Dame. If you're Philly, why aren't you looking at Dame, right? So they are looking at Dame. There are options about James Harden getting sent to Portland and then getting sent to the Clippers after that. So the Portland Trailblazers can take that really terrible player package because they don't need to play either of those guys, but a first-round pick would benefit them a lot, especially because Miami can only offer 3 to 4 first-round picks to them and other swaps in the deal. We're going to see Tyler Herro probably end up on the Nets or Spurs. I love both fits. I think Tyler Herro does fit personality-wise with Ben Simmons, and I think stylistically he's kind of a guy that works with the Brooklyn Nets because if ultimately you're trading Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith in that trade, we're talking about a lineup of Ben Simmons, Tyler Herro, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Nick Claxton. You have Cam Thomas. You have Dariq Whitehead, who you drafted. Noah Clowney, who you drafted. You still have Royce O'Neal, who's a great 3-and-D player. I think is just a tad bit less of a player than Dorian Finney-Smith is. So you paying $5 less mil for him, and you get Tyler Herro out of this, and you might have to give up that Philly first-round pick in 27 or the Phoenix pick in 27 because Tyler Herro is worth at least a first-round pick. And then now we're talking, Miami gets their guy. They get Damian Lillard. I don't think this happens till the beginning of the season, until they're eligible to trade another pick. I don't think this happens maybe till the deadline. This may not happen, people. But in my opinion, it should happen. It will happen. But everybody should know and be cautious that there is a world where Portland convinces themselves that Damian Lillard can still lead them to a championship or even just the second round, which they love to do. by maybe trading other young players. Ultimately, I think they're going to build around Scoot and Shaden and Simons. Maybe Simons it will be out of there. I think they're going to view Jovic as a building piece. I think they might want to look into getting Jaquez as well. And if they can't get Jaquez, try and get someone from the Nets. Try and get someone from another team because you need a starting center. Because I do think Nurkic is going to go in this trade to the Miami Heat. And one thing that's really important about Portland, I know we're kind of all over the place now, but Jeremy Grant is a very key piece. He can't be traded for a while. He signed that 5-year, $150 million contract, which is insane sticker shock, but 30 mil for a wing that can do a lot. Isn't that crazy? Especially with the cap going up. So I can see teams wanting him, but I don't know if teams are going to want to pay him 30 mil in about 3 years. But in the meantime, there are a few teams that I think that could use him. And one is Philly, who can offer that package back to Portland. Maybe I'll give 2 firsts instead of 1 of Marcus Morris and Norman Powell. You have OKC, who I think can package all of these very, very crazy contracts that they have. Oladipo, 8 mil, 9 mil. Berton, 17 mil. Ty Washington, Usman Gruba, you're there. Maybe Kenrich if Portland's getting spicy. And then you have to give like a first-round pick. And fun fact, OKC has like 5 next season. All of teams that could be very bad, including the Washington Wizards. But OKC can get Jeremy Grant if they want to upgrade the Dort position, or if they want J-Dub to move to the bench or Dort to move to the bench. There are so many teams that could use Jeremy Grant. If I'm Portland, I'm rebuilding. I'm trading him. I'm trading Nurkic. I'm trading Dame. I'm getting all the old guys out of there. Give me like 1 or 2 vets to mentor my young guys in Scoot, Shaden, and Simons, Jovic, whatever it may be. You have Chauncey Billups for that too. But you need to move off this right away. By right away, I mean more of the start of the regular season or the deadline, because we saw the package that Phoenix had to send for Kevin Durant. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 picks, swaps. Phoenix has no more first-round picks. They technically have 1, but it's the worst of Memphis, and I want to say Washington, but there's another team involved in that situation. But yeah, no, it's just unbelievable what Phoenix has done by trading all these picks away. And you'll see that's what Portland wants, really. They want a replicated package of the Phoenix Suns package that was sent to Brooklyn. All of those picks, Mikal Bridges, come on, man. If you're Portland, why wouldn't you want this? It's a player who's comparable at his level. Like, Dame is probably like here, KD is like right here, you know? Like, Dame is still a top 10, top 15 player in this league, and if he goes to Miami, they immediately are to the finals, in my opinion. And I think ultimately they're going to end up keeping Jaquez. They have Jay Rich. They have TB. I think they're going to sign Christian Wood once this all goes down, because why else would Christian Wood be waiting? Christian Wood is only waiting, in my opinion, because he wants to see Damian Lillard wear that number 0 jersey that Josh Richardson saved for him. And so he can put pen to paper, accept a minimum, and then be ready for next season and get a bag. Because, oh my goodness, Damian Lillard, Jaime Jaquez / Josh Richardson, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo at the 4 now. And then you have a mix of Nurkic and Wood. And then you also have Caleb Martin, who may not have to get traded. But if he does, you live with that. You still have Kevin Love, who's back, TB. Miami will become a contender immediately. And now let's talk about the team that you see on the screen right now, the Los Angeles Lakers. Because as we're talking about Christian Wood, optimistically, I would love Christian Wood on the Los Angeles Lakers as a fan. And just also, I love the stylistic ability of Darvin Ham teaching Christian Wood the ways. I see that they can put him in pick and pop. They can have him roam in defense. They can also have him guard the first guy while AD roams. And now we're talking about just being a long body that the Lakers don't necessarily have besides Jackson Hayes and Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt. You get more depth there. You have more shooting. He proved in a game against the Los Angeles Lakers, he could have 2 to 4 blocks. He can alter shots. But does he have the motor? Does he have the want to do that? That will be the question, which is why I think he will choose Miami. He will choose the team that you can win a championship with. And I think you can win a championship with either of those teams. But on Miami with a big 3, there's more playing time because more players are funneled out. He'll choose that ultimately. So I think the Lakers are going to go Bismack Biyombo. After speaking with Jovan Buha and a couple others, like Aaron Larsoul and some others at Summer League, Chris Haynes, unwritten rules, Raj, the GOAT. It's always seemed from Summer League onwards that it was going to be Biyombo or Wood. And I'm of the belief that Wood is going to choose Miami. I would love to see him choose LA, but I'm prepared for Bismack Biyombo to be a Los Angeles Laker. And I'm potentially prepared for one of Wenyen Gabriel or Tristan Thompson to be back with the Lakers next season. You saw great minutes out of Tristan in the limited time he played in the playoffs. And also the Lakers are always in the news. You know, LeBron and his son, Bronny James, I've talked about ad nauseum, but you just love to see that they're looking to get more treatment. They were at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. They're trying to figure this out. And I pray to God, I pray to whatever everyone prays to, that they can figure this out for Bronny, because what a player that he is, what a person that he is. Enough of that, but I'm hoping for the best there. And I was thinking about the Spurs today, right? And the Spurs could really get themselves involved in these Tyler Herro sweepstakes, but they're not going to. But it's obviously clear that Zach Collins is that starting center. Wemby's the starting 4. Now, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Is Jeremy Sochan going to be the starting 3, or is Keldon Johnson going to be a starting 3? Everybody let me know in the comments right now. Who are you starting, Keldon Johnson or Sochan? Because when you hear the other two, you'll be like, I can't not start the other two. You go Devin Vassell, who's probably the second best player on this team after Wemby, 3-and-D player who can become a 3-and-D star one day. He just looks like he has that it factor when it comes to scoring the ball and putting the ball in the hoop from deep. And then Trey Jones, who's a starting point guard for them until further notice, because I think ultimately he's going to make a great backup. But for now, he can set up Wemby. He's really good at pick and roll, pick and pop. He's the perfect guy to bring Wemby in the NBA right now as your starting point guard. Jeremy Sochan has proven ball handling ability. Same with Keldon Johnson. You're going to give Blake Wesley ball handling responsibilities. You're going to give Malachi Branham ball handling responsibilities. But ultimately, you need a stable point guard like Trey Jones. I think it's going to be one of Keldon or Sochan to come off the bench, or if they want to put Wemby at center and then just start all the young guys together. Also, we have to discuss the Pascal Siakam rumors. Obviously, Pascal Siakam does not want to get traded from Toronto, but what a compelling package that Atlanta can offer. They can offer their first-round pick. They can offer one or a Kings lottery pick. They can offer Adrian Griffin, which would be hilarious because his dad just became the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks after leaving the Toronto Raptors, but Adrian Griffin would slide in perfectly with Toronto and what they have going on. And then you have to give DeAndre Hunter, who has been known to maybe potentially be out of Atlanta and want out of Atlanta because his opportunities are slowly dwindling. Sadiq Bey is going to get minutes. Big O needs minutes. A lot of players need minutes on that team. Kobe Buffkin. And they might just have to commit to Siakam, because why would you need Hunter at that point, you know? And Hunter is a perfect player. He's such a Toronto Raptor. But ultimately, Siakam was going to probably stop this trade, and ultimately Masai Ujiri is going to stop this trade because he's not going to want just Griffin, a first, and Hunter, even though I think that's proper value for a player on an expiring contract who could just leave in the offseason, who I think is actually a good target for San Antonio next year. Mark that in my words, because I actually really like that fit for Pascal Siakam, but I love the Atlanta fit too. Imagine him and Trey operating with DeJounte Murray, and then you need a new 3-man. Maybe you're playing Bogdanovich. You're playing Bay, but you might need one more guy. But then you have Big O, who I think is going to be better than Capello really quick. But Capello is also a fantastic center who can do a lot of things for you, and who is just like the perfect player to put there because there's so much shooting around all those guys. If you're playing Bogdanovich, if you're playing Bay, even Buffkin has a burner. So Atlanta's very interesting, but ultimately I think Toronto's going to run it back in a really weird way, even though they did let Fred VanVleet walk. But they might be running it back. You saw rumors of OG Anunoby's next contract being 30 mil plus. I think that's super fair, especially because we talked about Jeremy Grant getting 30 mil. And OG Anunoby's one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA. He's just huge, and he can guard your favorite player, and you can be okay with that. And a lot of teams wanted OG Anunoby. They even offered 2 firsts for him over in Memphis. And they also offered 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges, I believe. But OG Anunoby has value around the league. So they may need to look into trading him too if he indicates he needs to walk. But it seems that him, Gary Trent, Siakam are kind of committed to this franchise right now. But I think anything can change in the NBA. We know how tumultuous it is. And another team that I want to talk about before we get into Team USA, which I'm most excited about, is the Orlando Magic. They have decisions to make. And the reason this comes to my mind is because we saw Cole Anthony playing in a skirt today against Keon Anthony, Carmelo Anthony's son, Keon. And my goodness, he was playing in a skirt. But the Orlando Magic have an almost too many players problem, but not as bad as they had last year, because Jonathan Isaac is not an NBA player anymore because he's more focused on his anti-woke rallies. He's getting a free 17 mil this year and he's injured. And then now we're talking about, you have Mo Wagner as your backup big. You have Wendell Carter as your starter. Not MPJ, Paolo Banchero, man. This is why I want to talk about him, the Orlando Magic, Team USA so much, because if he can learn small ball 5, and it's not even small ball like that, he is 6'10", 6'11". If he could learn how to play 5 and still hit his threes with Team USA, this team's going to become lethal. You can play Wagner at the 4, Franz. You can play Anthony Black at the 3, like a kind of 3-guard rotation, because Anthony Black can guard threes and then also just run point. I think he's going to ultimately be the best guard on this team by far. Markelle Fultz next year is going to probably be gone. Isaac is probably going to be gone. You're going to have to make a decision on Suggs or Anthony. Maybe you keep all 3. Maybe it's Black, Suggs, and Anthony, and you're fine with that being your guard rotation, because I would be personally. I wish there was some more shooting there, because I love Suggs, I love Black, but having those 2 guys together is a little repetitive. But my goodness, I am excited to watch Anthony Black, guys. You should be too. I love Jet Howard too, but Anthony Black is the standout of the Orlando Magic Summer League team, which leads me to talk more about Paolo, which leads me into talk more about Team USA and this whole FIBA World Qualifiers. My God, Austin Reeves, huh? Austin Reeves is slowly proving, or quickly, I don't know what you want to call it, but he is proving to the world, to the NBA, that he is legit, and he can just drop 9 points really quickly in that first half. Like, he can just get to his spots at ease. No one can really guard him in the NBA. It's just a matter of, will he peak out better than any of these guys that are above him? Will Austin Reeves ever peak higher than Anthony Edwards? Probably not. Will he ever peak higher than Halliburton? Probably not. Will he ever peak higher than Brunson? I think one day we could be talking about Reeves becoming a Brunson-type player because of the role he gets on the Lakers, especially if D'Lo walks in the offseason, when D'Lo walks in the offseason, or if he's traded. I highly, and by the way, side note, mark it here first. I may have said this in the last YouTube video, but D'Lo to the Wizards is happening next year, come hell or high water. Maybe if the Lakers win a championship with him on the roster, maybe not. But I feel like D'Angelo Russell to Wizards makes so many sense. Imagine the drip on that team. We're talking D'Lo, Cozy. We're talking Jordan Poole. He is Jordan Poole. We're talking Kyle Kuzma, swag. As someone called it, the swaggiest buckets you'll ever see. Those 3 are giving you swag buckets. They're giving you drip buckets. They are giving you the most coziest, the craziest step back threes in the game, the most egregious pull-ups in basketball. Those 3 together, I would pay so much money that I don't have to watch those 3 play basketball next season in Washington, D.C. And more with Team USA. Anthony Edwards is the guy that everyone wants to take that next leap. He's obviously compared to Michael Jordan just because of the way he looks, and just like we all see it. We all see the midi game. We all see the way he kind of moves, way he kind of talks. Defense. Man, Anthony Edwards is an elite defender. He is going to be the best defender on this team in Team USA. You saw he got a breakaway dunk. You saw Cam Johnson was looking good, getting breakaway dunks. Mikal Bridges looking great. I find it hilarious that all of these players, like there'll be 4 of them just running back on defense after the steal, and they all think that they're the diver and they're the guy that's going to get the layup at the end, because we got 4 wings running for Team USA when we're starting. And even Halliburton is getting dunks. He's 6'5", 6'6". Jalen Brunson is just a steady point guard, all-star point guard, who will run the ship at a high level. Josh Hart signs a 4-year, $81 million extension, has to take that 1 game off. That deal is going to become 5 years, 94, because of the 13 mil he makes this year. He did them a solid in order to get Dante DiVincenzo on the New York Knicks for that 4 years, $50 million deal. So you got to appreciate him if you're a Knicks fan right now. Jay Hart is just the epitome of a hustle player, one of the best role players in the league. Anthony Edwards has called him the best player on Team USA over the first few days because he's so consistent. you know exactly what you're getting out of Josh Hart. Every team should be developing a Josh Hart as we speak. Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, those are Josh Hart type players. And there are so many teams that are now following this mold, and they will get paid. If you are a role player out there and you have this want to become a star and you may not become one, invest in hustling, man. Like, learn from Josh Hart. Care more about basketball, and you can get a 4-year, $81 million bag yourself. And I just love the rest of this roster. I don't necessarily love that Bobby Portis is the interior defender, because there are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be getting to the rim. There'll be other players that will get to the rim. But Paolo Banchero showed he could block a shot. That might be your starter. Maybe not starter, but that might be the guy that finishes games for you at the 5. I love BI, obviously, Laker lover. So BI is going to be one of my favorite players. I think he needs to take a leap here. I think he needs to prove that he's the second or first best player in terms of offense on this team, because they're going to need a closer. Anthony Edwards can close, but BI has proven he can close. But both of these guys are still young, and being a couple years younger than me, and BI being like 24, 25. These guys have an opportunity to really prove something, because you saw what Germany did to Canada. Dennis Schroeder was embarrassing Dylan Brooks. Germany's locked in. Franz Wagner's looking even better. And when these guys are playing for their countries, it's a different level. Dennis Schroeder is like an all-star point guard when it comes to FIBA. And then you'll see the same for countries like Spain. You see how good Luka looks for Slovenia. My goodness, he is in shape, people. Luka Doncic is in shape once again, and he is pulling that shit from 30 feet out. Like, Luka Doncic is probably going to be the player that gives the USA 30, 10, and 10, but may not have a supporting cast to help him. Canada will have a supporting cast, although I think we're going to expose Kelly Olynyk every single time down the court. Dwight Powell every single time down the court. They're also running a lot of zone that I saw today. So I don't necessarily see Team USA losing a game at all. But if it comes down to it, maybe it's Serbia against Nikola Jokic. Maybe it's Greece against Giannis, because they have better peak talent at that best player. Maybe you get a lightning in a bottle game from one of those guys that go for 50, 20, and 10. But ultimately, the USA has the best team, and they should be winning. Not handily this year, but they should be getting gold ASAP. And I'm excited to watch these games. I think Reeves might get elevated. We'll see that. We'll stay tuned for that, people. Let me know who you guys' favorite player on Team USA is right now. Let me know in the comments. I'll respond immediately. Let's do this. And also, let me know who you guys want to see for next Team USA in the Olympics. That we could see some KD, we could see some Tatum, some Book. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. That's all, guys. It's been a fantastic video. If you made it this far, please like, please subscribe. Let's get to 500. I'm trying to get monetized, guys. I want to talk hoops for a living. I really do. So I really appreciate every single one of you that hops in, watches this video. I love you guys. Peace. We'll see you on the next one. Follow Ish NBA for more hoop news, more hoop talk.